Hello and welcome back to my channel, and thanks for rejoining me with my BX Dungeons and Dragons campaign. We find ourselves back in the Golden Griffin, the nice warm cozy Golden Griffin, with our rather large party of adventurers, all 7 of them. They are chatting away to Old Hemlock. He is regaling quite a story of the keep that we're going to be going towards, the ruined keep of Blackthorne Marsh, and what a story he has related. And I thought, well, what I should do really at the start, and it's been a while since I've done the BX one, and I do feel quite guilty about that, and I have missed it because I really wanted to crack on. And I thought, right, if I've got this basic fantasy on the go, and they're just about ready to get down a dungeon, there is no way basic fantasy is going to beat the stately lady, which is BX Dungeons and Dragons, to a dungeon. So yes, it's focused the mind. So you could say, well, Brian, you're doing far too many of these campaigns. However, it has acted as a catalyst to get me moving, even though BX was on the schedule, I can assure you, but there has been an extra motivation to get this rocking and rolling. So that being said, the recap on the last episode, we heard the sad story of the ruined keep of Blackthorne Marsh as a briefing to our next adventure. In summary, 20 years ago, Blackthorne Keep stood as a lonely outpost in the marshlands, held by Sir Malric Thornvale, a loyal friend and companion to Baron Eldric of Westmark. Built to guard the western trade road and to keep watch over the treacherous bogs, it was a place of vigilance and quiet duty. One autumn night, however, a strange fog rose from the marsh and swallowed the keep whole. When dawn came, the fortress lay silent and empty, its garrison vanished, its walls already sinking into the mire. Now the keep lies in the ruin, haunted by tales of ghostly lights, lost soldiers, and treasures buried beneath the marsh, while the Baron's descendants still mourn the loss of their faithful vassal and the mystery that claimed him. Something that I did actually omit from the last adventure, and the fact that this awful character, this scoundrel Rayash Braveheart, he was the chaotic fighter that we interviewed as part of our recruitment process. And we were looking around in the bar, and we noticed that the scoundrel Rayash Braveheart, who had given us a bit of a wink, a cheeky wink, and our misunderstood heroine, the beautiful Cassandra Starchild, have both gone. What? What could this mean? We will need to investigate this further on our return from the keep. So with that sobering information, we are going to jet off down towards Blackthorne Marsh. Further help from Old Hemlock. Can he give even more help to us? This is an amazing service that he is providing. That evening, he offers us some more valuable information concerning the journey, the location, and its environs, which the characters note. So, there's one thing I do want to do just before we kick off, that is to show you what I've been doing. This is something I promised to do, was to do a kind of summary of the characters, so we could use them when we come to do some dungeon delving and exploration, and I'd have everything to hand, and I'd probably have the relevant information that I need to use to do any form of combat or magical interaction, etc, etc. And I do have I've added this little bit of an enhancement. This is Excel. This is what you can do with Excel. So I've got Yorick Runehart, and we'll just remind ourselves who these individuals are. It's been a while since we've got to know them. So the first 4 are our original party. The last 3 are the ones that we recruited, and we just could not resist because we were almost oversubscribed with talent. We thought, yes, why not beef our party up to the maximum? And we kicked off with Yorick Runehart. He was our fighter, protector, lawful alignment, very solid chap. He's armed with a sword. He's very strong. He's got +3 damage. His armor class is terrific. It is 2. He has hit points of 9, so he's probably our tank. He's going to act as our front line. We have the quite amusing halfling character Hob Byatt. He is an innovator. He's not too sharp and he's not too bright, but he makes up for that with his probably his witty little comments, his cheeky humour, and the fact that he is quite innovative. He can come up with some creative solutions. So you might think that's rather contradictory, but this is Dungeons and Dragons, and you're allowed to have maybe some internal dynamics that aren't quite logical all the time. He is, again, he's lawful. He's armed with a short sword. He has a missile weapon of a sling. He has quite a few little advantages. The fact that he's got a missile bonus because of his dexterity, and the fact that halflings do get a good missile bonus. And I'm also going to be using this optional initiative rule. I've decided to apply the initiative slightly differently, that we'll still be rolling as a group, but this will give an individual advantage for each character. So say the monsters are 6 and we roll a 5. I could say, well, Hob is actually higher than, we have 5 + 2 is 7, so he has a higher initiative, so he's not penalized that he would come after the monsters. He could come in beforehand. So that's the way that would work. Again, he's quite decent hit points. We've got Quinn Redmayne, our cleric. She's quite mystical. She's kind of strange background. She's always a bit broody. She is of neutral alignment. She is armed, as all good clerics are, with a good kind of bludgeoning weapon. She has an armor class of 4. Her hit points are very low, so she needs to be protected. She also, at first level, doesn't have any clerical spells apart from turning undead, which is her ability. Tamsin Amani, who is our magic user, she's a charmer. She is quite charismatic. She is acting as effectively our leader just now, and I think we're gonna keep her as a leader with Yorick, because they're part of the original party. And I would say that Arisa, who has a higher charisma, and also Serafina, they could be challengers to this, but I think Arisa would probably view that she needs to earn her place in the party. And Serafina she has a bit of a flippant attitude to life in general. She really is a kind of whatever type attitude. So maybe she's not really too interested in leadership, but she's always probably quite willing to give her advice at any point. And Tamsin has got just armed with a silver dagger. She's not very strong, so she gets it. And we're not expecting Tamsin to be doing any damage. Also, I think her spell, from memory, if I just get her sheet out, she has got Charm Person. So that's okay. Charm Person, that might be of certain use in this dungeon. And then we have one of our new recruits, Arisa Dragonheart. She's a fighter, she's a protector, she's lawful. Fantastic name. She's also got some fantastic requisites too. She's very strong, she's powerful, she's got high dexterity. I think if we just do a quick recap of what she's like, she was really quite an impressive character. Yeah, strength of 16, intelligence 13, wisdom 12. Dexterity is off the chart at 18, so now she gets a whole list of pluses. She is a bit of a natural leader. Again, she's a protector. She's the same kind of type of person as Yorick. Same kind of backstory. She's also, I thought I'd give her a short bow too, so she has a bit of missile capability. Very good armor class because of her dexterity. And then we come to our solitary thief in this, Alden Trueblade. He has an archetype of rogue. He is lawful. I've decided to give him a sword and also a sling. And he just wears leather armor. And then, of course, we, Lady Serafina Silverbrook, our elf. She is a charmer too. One of her archetypes. She is lawful. She's armed with a sword and a short bow. She has some good bonuses. However, her hit points aren't very good, and she, even though she could be classified as a front line, I would be quite keen to maybe protect her. Her armor class is 3, so if one stray shot, say, gets through, Seraphina could be basically gone. And in this game, it's quite ruthless because you get down to 0, you're dead. That's it. there's no minuses or whatever, unless I decide under certain circumstances that is not the case. But because I've got such a large party, I think, well, maybe I just need to have this this kind of rather severe cutoff, and I think I would apply that in probably my homes. I think I've got that in operation, and also I think in the basic fantasy, I'd have to check whether that has an optional rule that you can go down to minus. There might be. I have to think I've actually seen in the BX rules any option that you can go to minus on hit points, but I'd have to have another look. I had to look through quite a detail this morning, but I didn't see anything on that. And again, I was just going to wax lyrical about the benefits of this color coding system, that I can put my little pawns on the appropriate. I've got this light green here, I've got my purple and green, and that looks really quite nice, doesn't it? So I wanted to show that off. That is our pawns all reconciled with their statistics, hopefully in a useful summary form, so that when I'm doing my man and lady management in these extensive combats, I have everything to hand, and it's really, I just need to shepherd maybe some of the monsters that they're going to be coming up against. Okay, let us move on. And I've said that the next morning, the party sets off from the Golden Griffin and make their way through the bustling streets of Freehold. The gate guards wave them farewell and wish them luck in their endeavour. They say, bye, hope you have a lot of luck. Not under their breath, you'll need it type thing. And we've seen all these adventurers come and go. Usually they just go, they don't come back. So what makes this any different? There are quite a lot of these individuals. They had to count them out. They thought, right, there's quite a large party here. So this might make a bit of a dint in the recruitment market, and maybe put up some prices for getting new employees for adventure parties. But let us see. They put their bets on to see who comes back, and they said, well, a pretty good chance, I would say, that Arisa Dragonheart, she looks really quite capable. I think she might be about the only one. And the elf, she looked as though she was really on point. So I think the rest of them could be a bit debatable. So end of this this kind of banter as they disappear into the distance. The journey to the keep, I'm saying, is about 12 miles along a defined pathway, and we'll take the encumbered characters, because most of them are encumbered by armor and equipment, most of the day to reach its location. So that is the case. The terrain that we're going through, and we went through this quite a bit of an effort to do my barony and design it, and we came up with quite a scintillating little map at the end, which is this one here. I think this is got one that is more finalized. Yeah, this looks like a bit more like my finalized one. Yeah. We're moving from this town of Freehold, and we're going down to Blackthorne Marsh, which is almost in the foothills of these mountains, the jagged mountains, which are the home of dwarves, dragons, the Great Chasm, and the volcano. So my goodness, it's quite a place that we're going to. Now you can probably see the mountains in the distance getting closer as we approach the marsh. The terrain that we're actually going through is light forest and hunting lands. The weather happens to be warm and dry, and the going good. So it's a very pleasant day. We are quite full of enthusiasm. There's a kind of bubbling through the party. I'm minded of that picture that is in one of the modules, one of the either B1, B2, or B3, of the line of characters, like 7 or 8 of them in a long line, and that's basically what these are like, because there's so many of them, like in a long line of characters. I think I've actually used it as a thumbnail for one of my Homes videos. But that's the kind of image that you could have of them just tripping along, maybe getting to know each other a bit more, having a quite a gay day. And what we can do is, as I said, the terrain is light forest and hunting lands. However, they decide to camp before they venture into the marshes, and they think, well, I would probably say that, say Yorick says, look, I don't think we should venture into the marshes in the evening. I think we should probably have a rest first, get our strength back, strike camp somewhere that's safe, just off the road, and then venture into the marsh, following Old Hemlock's instructions, locate the place that we need to be, and penetrate it, probably during the hours of daylight. And if we get into this place in early morning, that is going to help us if we are delayed as we are exploring, so that we're not coming out into the marsh at night time. I think that would be a bad idea. And they all agree. They say, Yorick, that sounds a very smart decision. We are with you. So they decide to camp before they venture into the marshes, and they locate a camp spot within some light woodland just away from the path. And what we can do is we can roll for an encounter per day, and that's what the rules state. And I would say that this counts as inhabited, the region that we're going through. So if I get a 6 on with a D6, I will say that we have an encounter. So, are we going to have an encounter on the road? Very close, we almost. And if we'd had an encounter, I could have checked the time. In 1 to 4, I was saying there was during our travel, or 5 or 6, while they camped at night. So we have a bit of a camp overnight. And I move on to my next page. And after breaking camp, they move onwards and enter Blackthorne Marsh. This is a place of haunting echoes, where the faintest sound seems amplified, and strange reflections appear in the dark waters, seeping around the winding pathway. So, it's really quite creepy. It's dark. There's haunting echoes, faint sounds, amplified. What is going on with these strange reflections in the rippling water around about us? It really has quite a grim atmosphere. They managed to follow the directions that Old Hemlock gave them. Thank goodness for Old Hemlock. And are confronted by the foreboding ruins of the keep. Right. The keep itself is half sunken into the swamp, with creaking timbers and crumbling battlements. It is surrounded by mist-choked pools and reeds. Okay, well, exactly as Old Hemlock described it, really, in a state of massive disrepair, completely even if you wanted to come in and renovate it and bring it up to scratch, it would probably cost almost the same as kind of create it in the first place. While they are doing this, while they are viewing, they feel a strange sensation as they cautiously approach the entrance, a mysterious lingering sense of the supernatural or unexplained. Old Hemlock has instructed them to find the central courtyard and then descend the staircase within what remains of the main hall. So I will have my characters move within the old keep. They have penetrated the outer fortifications through the what remains of the archway through into the central courtyard. They find this, and then they move into what Old Hemlock has described as the main hall, and they see before them across the rubble-strewn floor a staircase descending. So that is the state of play. I'm just going to introduce, give a few points about my system that I'm going to be using in this, and just a few indications of maybe some of the compromises that I've had to make, and just some of the tact that I'm taking with the overall campaign as we approach this juncture. And my dungeon exploration system, for dungeon adventuring, I've decided to put on hold my bespoke random generation system for the time being. Now, I wasn't really too, I think I was kind of going rah 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 about it last time, but when I was doing some bit of playtesting with it, I wasn't really too happy. And the more I read the actual BX rules themselves, and some of the information that they were having at the back, the B-52 type stuff, you know, choosing the scenario and mapping out the dungeon, and also maybe looking at some of the videos on YouTube where people were stocking dungeons based on this system, and just really using it. I thought, well, why not just use this resource as much as possible at the start, before I start tinkering around with it, and just see how I get on. So that's what I've decided to do. So I've said, for the time being, I'm going to put my system on hold. But that's not to say that I am not adding in some little enhancements and whatever, and they will become a bit more obvious as we start to descend. We are going to be following the BX guidelines as to how to create the dungeon. And basically, this means having a map of the dungeon defined. And that's what I've done. I will give you a quick flash of the map of the dungeon that I have defined. There you go. And then it's going to disappear. So I'm going to use that as my map. And I have not really, I went on to, I think it was called a dungeon random generation. And this created almost like the homes. It's like a sort of standard geomorph type thing, a random dungeon based on my prescription. I said I wanted a small one level dungeon, you know, maybe leading on to another level, with a number of rooms, a few connecting corridors, and it just generated this for me. And I thought, right, I will use that as the basis for my adventure. And what I can do is I can narrate as we go through this, and not have to randomly generate. So one, it has the advantage is basically following the prescriptive protocols in this that says you start with a map that you have drawn. I haven't really drawn this, so I don't really have it in my head. I don't really know and you know, I haven't been studying it. So to me, it's going to be as much an exploration and a discovery as it will be to yourselves. So I'm feeling quite charged about that, using that, and it will have the advantage that I will not be constantly having to look up charts and tables to say, well, this room is by 30 by 40, and it's got so many exits. I will just have it before me, and I will describe it as if I am a dungeon master, a bit like what I do with my homes. But I'm not really going to take on the roles of avatars with, you know, my dungeon master and player characters. I'm going to try to keep it just really a kind of descriptive mechanism. And as I've said, this means having a map of the dungeon defined and then stocking the dungeon as we progress using the tables in BASIC, and also my additional tables and rules guidelines. So there's this master table here, which is you roll for contents. So as you go through, this is called stocking the dungeon, and you can roll for the contents of rooms as you go through them. And this is basically what you can use. You can get a monster, a trap, a special, or empty. And then you can also roll for any chances of treasure. So I'm going to use that to stock our dungeon as we progress through. And I think that might be quite interesting. You know, certainly for maybe the first dungeon adventure. Let us see the results that it generates. And rooms and corridors, occupied and empty, will be enhanced with the addition of atmosphere and some thematic features. And this will be a more limited application of the AD&D mechanics. So you will, if you are familiar with AD&D at all, the Dungeon Master's Guide and Appendix A, which is the famous random dungeon generator. It also has access to an appendix. I think it's appendix I. Here they are. Yep, appendix I. These are called dungeon dressing. And what I'm going to use is basically a summarized form of that. I was thinking, well, why don't I just use these tables? And that might be an option. I have thought, I didn't really want to maybe bring in any AD&D stuff directly into the game, but when it comes to something as universal as dungeon dressing, I might be tempted to do that and not spend a lot of time basically reinventing the wheel. So if you do forgive me, I might just use the AD&D ones in this particular adventure. And if I feel, I think the general sort of spirit that I am coming towards for this Blackthorne Marsh, the keep, is to use this as a bit of a test, because I've never played BX D&D. I started with Holmes, I moved on to AD&D. I kind of skipped the BX thing, so I am not 100% familiar with it, and I would like to maybe just play it the way it was designed in the first place, but as a solo game, and I think it has the capacity to do that before I start to interfere and start messing around with its mechanics. And I think this is going to be a pure way to do it, and it might be entertaining, it might not. Let us find out together. In future adventures, I will use a tailored monster stocking table, and a specific wandering monster table. But for this initial outing, I'm going to go full random and see if this can be crafted into the narrative. So it will be within my gift to basically craft in a rationale why these random things are happening. Why are all these troglodytes jumping about in this room? I will be able to explain with my amazing narrative skills that I am honing by having this YouTube channel. That will be my task. That will be my objective. So let's talk about the dungeon exploration system. Just a few little points about the combat that I'm going to bring in, and then I will get on with the actual adventure. With the combat, the enhancements that I alluded to at the start of this campaign in the form of combat tactics and options. I mentioned things like flanks, focus on weakest, move around, evade, dodge. I'm going to phase these in as we progress with the dungeoneering. So I'm not really going to apply them right at the word go. I'm going to start with baby steps first, and then move up. The combats themselves will hopefully be full of narrative description and will refer to these kinds of maneuvers, but I won't be restricted by any formal rules at this stage, and leave it to interpretation and the emergent narrative of the situation. So that's a fancy way of saying that I have not done it yet, but I will compensate with my narrative. And I think I've maybe been able to demonstrate that in some of my other campaigns, that I can add a bit to the narrative side of the combat. And if, say, someone misses, I can really give maybe a bit of a kind of color and atmosphere to why that happened. A bit of a rationale, like it hit the wall, or it scraped along the floor, or something. Oh my goodness, it just about fell out of the person's hand. That type of stuff. But the first edition I'm going to do will be take on a more passive application of this initiative by having the hit roll determine some specific outcomes in addition to the physical blow or miss. Now, this was an idea that came to me when I was doing my homes, and I brought in a very simple rule that if you got a 20, or if you got a natural 20 or a natural 1, and say the hit to hit was not needing a 20, and you were not down to like an automatic 1, this would be classified as something exceptional. So an exceptional miss or an exceptional hit. And I just spun the reason and kind of made it up on the spot. But I'm decided to do a little bit more formalization in my BX. And I have what's called a natural 20 results table. And when we get a 20, I will roll a d6. and the character could maybe have a perfect strike, which is double damage, a crippling blow, normal damage, a knockback or knockdown, weapon mastery moment, a fearsome display, or lethal precision. So I can actually bring in some real almost like quantified impacts of those. And I'm only going to apply this to maybe the characters. I might use some personality monsters as also recipients of this type of treatment, because with every advantage there is a disadvantage. So you might say, well, that's not fair that you're giving like a natural 20 result to the characters, not to the monsters, but they will have a natural 1 result table as well. So we could have things like a wild swing where we overextend ourselves, a weapon slip, it flies from your grasp. Whoa, that's a bit of a disaster. You're off balance, you have a minor injury, friendly fire, misstep. Oh no, you nearly hit an ally. They might have to make a save, or else they could get some damage from you, or a broken or jammed item, weapon. So that could spell doom for characters too. And the last thing that I'm not going to labour on any longer after this, I've just got some future enhancements. I'm probably going to have, if we get 5 or more than are required for your hit, that might trigger what I call a feat, and a 5 below a slip. And we'll have some tables to introduce some friction into the combat. So I've got to figure out how that's going to work. But I think that's probably sufficient just now, these natural 20 and 1 results table, to give a bit more nuance. And if I do all the kind of characterization in the combat too, and the narrative, I think we're okay to go in our first adventure. And I just did some very simple bullet points for the adventure and the encounter on just how we're going to be administering this game and getting us started. So I will just take a little break just now, and then I'll come back and have the game ready for you. Okay, so we've got I've got my grid ready, and we are about to start adventuring. So there was a staircase that we talked about, and I'm saying that the staircase is going to be 20 feet down into the gloom. So let us start with our staircase here. And I will do 20 feet down. So we are moving towards me, towards where I'm sitting, which is to your south. And we're not going north, we are going to be going south. And I will do some little staircase going down, little stairs. And the first thing we need to do is decide what is going to be our marching order. So once I've done the little staircase, I will get our pawns ready into marching order. I'm going to blow this up and zoom it up if we get into any form of encounter situations. And also I'm going to, because it's our first adventure, I'm probably going to be quite heavy on the kind of explanation of exactly what I'm doing and some of the time mechanisms that I'm going to be employing to basically take account of time, the fact that we've got lanterns and we've got things like torches and all that kind of good stuff. How long are they going to be taking to use up? That is going to be important for my reckoning. So you might say, my goodness, Brian, it's going to be an administrative nightmare. Well, I feel I'd like to handle all that. The only downside is it does sometimes a bit of an overhead on time. So if you bear with me, but I think it is rewarding, having some of the logistics side in it, because that makes it a bit more realistic and grounded, and also it brings in a bit of jeopardy for the characters that they are up against the clock sometimes. And one of the most surprising things about BX that I did find when I was looking through was that you have encounter wandering monster checks every 2 turns. So that's every 20 minutes we're going to be checking for a wandering monster, and it's a 1 in 6. So we are expecting action non-stop in this dungeon. So let us find out what our characters are going to be. And I did say that I wanted maybe our heavy panzers up at the front. So I think we'll probably have Yorick and Arisa in the front, like there. Behind them, I would say that we're probably going to have Alden. And what Alden can do is maybe he can range forward and do a bit of scouting for us as a thief. And also he might be quite good at just maybe spotting ahead and seeing if there's any traps or whatever. We will have Quinn, I think, behind, and what Quinn can do is maybe carry the torch or the lantern. I'm not entirely sure which one it is. I'd have to check. It's either going to be her or Tamsin as being in that position. Seraphina. Oh, sorry, that is Seraphina. This is Quinn. Yeah, she's green. So let's maybe put Quinn in the third row with Arisa, and we'll have Hob at the back just as our rear guard, and we'll have Tamsin here. Tamsin's acting as a kind of secondary leader capacity, but she is, I think we want to try to keep her in the body of the party, and almost as protection. She's only got a very low armor class of 9, so she needs a bit of heavy support. Potentially we could maybe swap her with, and that might actually be, with hindsight, actually I might just swap her with the cleric, and she's got Seraphina to basically act as our guardian and helper if she gets into any trouble. So I think that's probably quite a good position for these two maybe weaker characters. And of course Seraphina herself, she's not really supercharged in this, so I've got this on camera, so hopefully I will remember it in my head, but let's just move them off just now and focus in. In fact, because I am actually taking, I'm not taking up too much space, I could probably just keep the pawns on so that you've got them in your point of vision, and you can see them. And you get a visualization of how these characters are progressing down the steps into this dungeon. Just move that a bit further down so you can see it. So, that being said, we are now, we've now reached down through the dungeon. Some of the basics that we need to consider is that we explore and map an area equal to the movement rate per turn. Now, on the characters, usually when you are unencumbered, you can move 120 around this dungeon. However, a lot of these characters are encumbered, and if I look at their movement rate after I've calculated based on their encumbrance, I think the majority are going to be about 60. So I have got, yes, I have got, move 60 for Yorick, move 60 for Hob, and move 60 for Quinn. And Tamsin, because she's got nothing, basically armor-wise, she can move 120. But I'm going to say that the whole party is really, if we're including some of the other characters who are wearing armor and quite extensive armor, they're all going to be at the 60 mark. So I'm saying that we can actually map 60 feet of area every turn, and that is our maximum. So it is quite limited. The exploration speed is going to be quite limited in this exploration. And also we have to rest every 5 turns. We have this wandering monster every 2 turns. Torches will last for 6 turns, and lanterns for 24. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start taking a note of the turns here, and as soon as we get to 24, we're going to have to change our oil. Otherwise our lantern will go out. And we do have 2 flasks of oil with us. That's going to take quite a while because that's 4 hours. So I don't see us down here beyond 4 hours, because we'll probably try to get out after maybe. But who's to say, if we'd get involved in some form of debacle, we might be down this place a bit longer. So anything else that I need to bring to our attention? Not quite yet. Let us actually progress with our adventure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So another 50 feet. And the range of the lantern is 30. So as we get down to the bottom of the stairs, we see another 30 feet of corridor stretch out beyond us. We don't see anything at the end. There's no door or anything. It just kind of looms off into the darkness. So we proceed warily in our marching order. As we approach this point here, this extends out and it comes to a turn. So we go another 20 feet and then I've just gone too far on that. Get my rubber out on this. And it takes what would be a left turn for the characters as they come down. And Yorick says, I can see that this passageway turning. Proceed with caution. And we say, yes, Yorick. As always, you are giving some very firm advice. Erisa is saying, I am taking notes, Yorick. You're doing a fine job. So there's none of this undermining. You know, these are all BX characters. They're all completely on the page. They're a bit of a team. That's how they want to play it. You know, they are basically lawful, so they're all good people. We are going to map this. So that's going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's one turn to get down to there. So we get one turn. Let's take that. We are now coming round the corner, and what we see before us is actually a portcullis. Yes, we have a portcullis that is down. And to me, this would be classified as just a heavy door, and it's going to be up to the characters whether they can lift it. And now with doors, the unlocked doors take a 1 or a 10th to open, plus your strength bonus. So I'm going to say that it's going to be the same thing to lift this portcullis. So let's just have a quick look at the two characters at the front. We've got Yorick, and he has a hit damage bonus of +3. So he's got a phenomenal strength. He could add +3. And Erisa, she can do some damage too. She can add 2. So I think this should be quite straightforward. So both of them step up. Start to say, shall we do it together? or I'll tell you what, Erisa says, I'll watch you, Yorick. You are the strongest. You are mighty. I will watch you and make sure that nothing scuttles out as you are doing this. And he says, thank you. And he gets his D6 ready. He adds 3. So basically he needs anything but a 6. And he'll be able to heave this portcullis up. Oh, it is a bit close because at least he had that phenomenon. His muscles, his biceps are bulging. He's really straining, and he goes, "Whoa, this is really heavy." But I have managed to get the portcullis up. We can get through. We can proceed in a marching order. And no, the characters don't all go yes, because that would be a bit silly because they're making a bit too much noise. But they are basically successful. And beyond the portcullis, they see the entrance into a chamber. And they get up to this point here. And the chamber itself, this is really quite large. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 70 feet by 70 feet. So I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And this goes 70 feet up here. So we've already done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And we'll do 70 across here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so it's a large square room. And it has a door over here. That's all we see. Now, this is our first room that we have encountered in BX. So what does the mechanism say that we need to do when we come across a room? we can do the room stocking mechanic. So I will get my BX rules out. Stock the dungeon. To stock the dungeon means to fill in the general details such as monsters, treasures, and traps. Special monsters should be first placed in the appropriate rooms along with special treasures. Now, I'm not going to have any maybe special monsters or treasures, certainly not on this level, but in future adventures and maybe on the levels below, I will have these special monsters and treasures. So that out of the way, the remaining rooms can be stocked as the DM wishes. If there is no preference as to how certain rooms are stocked, the following system may be used. So this is the system that we are going to use. We roll 1d6 for contents, and then roll on the second table for treasure according to the result of the first roll. A yes result means the treasure is there along with whatever is indicated by the first roll. Okay, so this is going to be quite an important roll. And also, just as an aside, I will probably be rolling for things like the atmosphere and the dungeon dressing at the same time. But it's always good to maybe get the information out first of what the contents are first. So let us roll our d6. We have not done any mapping of this yet, and this is going to take a while to map because, yes, it's going to take... Maybe I can bring in some special rules to say that if it's a large regular room, we could probably do it a bit faster. So what is the result of this going to be? We get a 1 monster. We've got a monster in the room. Oh dear. So that is and what does monster mean? Monster result means that the DM should roll on Wandering Monsters table and determine the type present. Right. So what did it say about the second roll? We said we should make a second roll and to see whether the monster has treasure. And on a 1, 2, and a 3, it does, and a 4 to 6, it does not. So let us roll 1d6 and find out. If it's a 4 to 6, we've got nothing, and it's just monsters. So there is treasure here. So we will not specify the treasure yet. We will wait. So we are faced with the exciting prospect of the BX Wandering Monster Level 1 table, which we will use. This is 1d20 determination. It has all the numbers. It shows you their armor class, their hit dice, their damage, how they move, etc., etc. So this is important. This is for us to work out who we are going to be facing in our first hand-to-hand combat, or potentially our first interaction with the Blackthorne Keep. And it is a 10. And a 10 is always our old favourites from AD&D, Kobolds 4 to 16. Yes. So 4 to 16 is lots of d4s. So my favourite dice. How many kobolds are we talking about? And we're going to have 4 plus 4, that's 8, plus 2 is 10. We have 11 kobolds. So I will, in fact, I'll use another little sheet. I'll get my AD&D information off and use this. We're going to have 11 kobolds. And these 11 kobolds, they are... one of the things I want to do is try to maybe give a rationale why these monsters are here. Now, the fact that they had this portcullis, and we managed to move it quite effectively, because even though I was saying that Yorick was straining, he still managed to lift it up. So I would say that there's still the element that we could maybe surprise these kobolds, but why would they be here? Are they kind of like outer sentries of this, or are maybe they have come down? This fact that this portcullis is down, it's like they are waiting here already, and they are occupants of this. So I would say that they're probably using this as maybe a barracks or whatever, Maybe they are also part of a detachment. Maybe there are kobolds in the complex, or maybe the kobolds are being employed by some overall master of this location. And they are probably going to be quite negative to the characters coming in. So we can actually use the what we do in situation where we have an encounter, and there is a bit of a checklist of what we do. We do the order of events in one game turn. So we're not going to roll for wandering monsters. The party moves, enters rooms, listens, and searches. So we've entered this room. We have discovered the monsters. The DM rolls 2d6 to check the distance between the monsters and the party. Now, we could do that because it is a big room. And we can also check for surprise. And you only do surprise if you think that the monsters are... unless they have been waiting in ambush, there is always the chance to do that. And I can maybe apply an oracle to that and say, have the kobolds been waiting in ambush for us? Or have they just been generally doing what kobolds do and just mucking around and doing all sorts of nonsense? So I would say on a positive, I'd say on a 5 or a 6, on a d6, I would say that they are waiting in ambush, but otherwise they are just parting around, mucking about like kobolds usually do. So they're just doing, so that on that basis we can do a surprise roll for the party and the kobolds. Okay, and what that entails is that we roll a d6 for our party and a d6 for the kobolds, and on a 1 or a 2 we are surprised, and on a 1 or a 2 they are surprised. So let's find out what is the story. So we are surprised. So after all that, the kobolds do actually get us on the back foot. So it's going to be quite important to find out how far away these kobolds are. Now, the size of this is that if there are 14 in here, you would be expecting maybe them to be spread across the entire area. However, I'm going to say that there's a good chance that maybe they are congregating over this side here, away from this area, and they've got this door that they're using, and they are moving in and out of it at times. So maybe their sleeping quarters are over here. So let us just roll 2d6 as the suggestion, and that will bias it towards a distance. So yes, 7. So they are basically over here on the other side, and I could put them basically in, say, from this zone onwards. This is where the kobolds are going to be. So that's about 50 feet away from us, but we are surprised. So they are a bit of a distance from us before they can reach us. Now, I do see that I am getting on a bit on time-wise. What I want to do is to give this a bit of justice and really put it into a kind of proper combat situation, and have a bit of a schematic of this room, kind of zoom out a bit if it's going to be our first proper combat. There is also the chance that the kobolds have a bit of a reaction to us. So maybe that's what we should do first, is just leave it on the fact that the kobolds just see exactly what they think when they see us. And we can do it as a rough indication of what their attitude is. And I'm saying if we get a friendly one, I'm not saying that they're going to be our best friends or anything, but they might have less of an inclination just to charge and kill, but otherwise they will be. And if I just find out where the reaction table was, here we go, monster reaction. Some monsters always act in the same way, such as zombies, but however, the reactions of most monsters are not always the same. The DM can always choose the monster's reactions to fit the dungeon. But let us find out what these kobolds are like, and what their kind of initial gut feel is when they see us. And they get a 4, so I think it's on hostile, possible attack. I would say that they are going to be hostile. They are going to attack us. They have the advantage. We are kind of on the back foot. So as our characters come in, They lift the portcullis, they come into the room, they see these kobolds in the distance, but the kobolds have the edge on us and they are going to move in and do some damage on us. As I said, what I want to do is put this into a bit of bigger format, have it with my kobold figures ready, with my numbering. I have 11 of these little critters that I'm going to have to work out. Also, just maybe some of the tactics of our characters as they will employ as they come into this room would be quite interesting to deliberate on as well, if this is our first combat. Okay, well, I enjoyed that because what it did was it basically got us into the zone of adventuring. It got us familiar with how we're going to be progressing through this dungeon, how we're going to be assessing how rooms are created, how we're going to be stocking it, for want of a better word, and also just how we're going to adjudicate some of the combats. I am really going to try to go by the rules as written, and try to stick to that for this campaign, but I will use my my judgment and apply some different modifiers or different rulings if that is required. I don't really feel that I've had to intervene very much just now. It's been quite nice just using the rules as stated in the book. And let's just see whether it continues, that we get some logic. The fact that these kobolds are here, we could already have a bit of a backstory behind that. And also, if I bring in a bit of dressing and whatever, there might be some things lying around that are of interest too. The tantalizing prospect that they have some treasure, that is always a good motivation for our characters. So I would say the odds are pretty reasonable for us. 11 kobolds against 7 of our pretty well kitted out adventurers. The downside is that we do not have initiative. We are down by 1 surprise round, so that kobolds will have a chance to do something. Maybe they will have some missile weapons that they can lob at us. Maybe our first 2 characters, Erissa and Yorick, are going to take a bit of a pelting with kobold missiles, but let us see. Let's see what happens at the start of our next adventure. Okay, well, I enjoyed that. Hopefully you did too, and you got a bit of confidence. We've actually got into some of the adventuring for BX, and long may it continue. And I have many rooms that I need to explore in this, and hopefully the characters will survive to progress through this door, get past these kobolds, and onwards through the dungeon. Okay, well, thanks for watching this time, and I'll see you next time.